Joe Pugh for the Boxing Voice, joined by the man himself, Mr. Paulie Malignaggi, here underground somewhere in London. How are you, Paulie?
Hey, man, always making my appearances. Got to make the UK appearances. I'm doing good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. We've just seen the official announcement to Ben Whittaker signing with Boxer and Sky Sports Boxing. First of all, it's a great signing for Sky Sports and Boxer, but Ben Whittaker, phenomenal talent.
Phenomenal talent, and you know what? He got the deal that I think he wanted. He really took his time turning pro. This was the jewel of that Olympic class, I think, from the UK. People were really looking at, and this was the sought-after guy. And having seen him now in the flesh, I can kind of see why. You know, he's a guy who not only has a tremendous boxing talent, tremendous boxing IQ, but also has a very distinct personality and charisma that you cannot teach. It is natural, and you can see he's got this marketability and branding written all over him. I think there's a lot of possibilities with Ben Whittaker, and I think Boxer have made a tremendous signing, and I think it's big for Sky Sports as well.
And he's training with Sugar Hill now. Obviously, Sugar Hill had tremendous success recently with Tyson Fury, bringing that Kronk style. Do you think that could benefit Ben?
Absolutely. You know, clearly Sugar Hill has had a lot of success in bringing out the maximum power in these fighters. You know, it's one thing to be a good fighter, a talented fighter, but then when you can maximize your power range, and you can see Whittaker's frame. He's a tall guy, he's lanky, you know, sort of in that Kronk fit that a lot of the Kronk fighters of the past that have had big punches have had this kind of frame. I like the possibilities with Sugar Hill because he teaches that power game and he gets the maximum. A lot of times those Kronk fighters, they get the maximum out of this kind of body frame. So it'll be interesting to watch.
It's been a tremendous few weeks for boxing, going back to obviously Fury White, and then you had Taylor Serrano, and now obviously Canelo and Bivol. Just go back to Fury White, Paulie. What did you make of Tyson Fury's magnificent knockout, and do you think he will retire?
You know, I lean towards the fact that he might retire. There's nothing really more to prove. There's always another fight. People will want to watch you fight, but I think his brand is so big. He'll be sought after no matter what, no matter where he goes. He'll be sought after by the WWE. He'll be sought after for boxing exhibitions, which are getting bigger and more popular now, and they don't put you at risk as far as taking an L on your record. And he's speaking of charisma, he's a very charismatic guy himself. People always want to talk to him and reach out to him. As far as his performance is concerned, I thought it was exceptional. You know, Dillian White, even when he's been beaten, has never been dominated like this. You know, and Fury really has made him look completely ineffective, and then knocked him out as well. So a big statement win against a guy who had a good career at a pretty elite level. Dillian White, I always believe, deserved a title shot. It's just styles make fights, and unfortunately for Dillian, it came against probably the worst style of matchup for him, which was Tyson Fury.
And then fast forward 7 days, obviously, Taylor Serrano. Madison Square Garden was rocking that night. It was a phenomenal fight. What did you make of it?
First of all, you know, a lot of times you hype up these big fights, and sometimes they don't live up to the hype. You know, you have this hope. You know, you put these two fighters together, and sometimes the styles don't mesh, don't gel. This was clearly the most anticipated fight in women's boxing history. Women's boxing has raised through the levels through the decades that it's been around. It's still in its embryonic stages anymore, but it's still in its youthful stages. And at this point, the mainstream networks have started to pick up women's boxing, and so you had now two phenomenal fighters in women's boxing on a big platform with a chance to really show what women's boxing is as far as being entertaining and also skilled. And this fight lived up to the hype. A lot of times that's the risk. We knew they were phenomenal fighters. We knew Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano were exceptional grade A level fighters, but sometimes you put grade A level fighters against each other and they don't make for a great fight. You know, fights like De La Hoya Trinidad come to mind. Even Mayweather Pacquiao come to mind. You know, so you can put these great fighters together, and then you just got to cross your fingers and hope the styles mesh. And what a fight it was. I think it made a statement for women's boxing, and I think it made a statement for boxing overall. Terrific excitement, and I look forward to the rematch. I hope they make it.
Another massive female fight that we're hoping to be made over here is Savannah Marshall versus Claressa Shields. Do you think that fight has the scope to be just as big as Taylor Serrano?
I think it does. I think it has a lot of possibilities as well. People are starting to talk more and more about Clarissa and Savannah. I think Serrano and Taylor are more cemented as far as name branding and popularity-wise. But there's a lot of people still talking about the rivalry that Clarissa and Savannah have had since the amateurs. You know, so I think it can gain some traction and gain some popularity. Can it match the enthusiasm of a Taylor versus Serrano? We'll see. But I think even if it doesn't, it'll come close. Women's boxing is starting to now, like I said, raise its level and also create these big rivalries that people really look forward to watching them match up against each other.
That same night you had Shakur Stevenson beat Oscar Valdez. In the States, do you think Shakur could really kind of push now to become one of the biggest stars over there?
You know, he's sort of the guy that is being pointed to in that direction, and when you watch him fight, you can kind of see why. You know, he's a terrific fighter, makes all the right decisions in the ring, very smart fighter, but at the same time, you know, there's some marketability options for him outside the ring as well. We'll see how far that can go. It's up to him to take care of his brand in the right way outside the ring, but inside the ring, I mean, it's not a lot you can complain about with Shakur Stevenson. The sky's the limit.
And then obviously it's Canelo-Bivol. First of all, what did you make of Bivol's performance? Obviously a masterclass in tactics in going in against Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, you know, it was sort of what I expected from Bivol. He's usually a guy with a high work rate, and that was what I was questioning going into the fight. People were not talking enough about Bivol's work rate, because Canelo, if you watch him, never has a comfortable time when the work rate is elevated. You know, and usually how he wins his fights is by forcing you to come down to his work rate, and then he takes over from there with his power. He sort of gets you questioning yourself, and you start to diminish your rate because you're questioning yourself based on his power, and then he takes over. And he just wasn't able to do that with Bivol, and I was sort of wondering if he was going to be able to do that with Bivol, because, you know, Eastern fighters are a little bit tougher mentally than Western fighters, and this guy, you know, we'd already seen it with Golovkin that, you know, he wasn't able to get Golovkin to come down to his level. He had to raise his level to Golovkin's level, and he was able to do that in the second fight with him. So with Bivol, I was wondering, how is he going to do this, especially that this guy's naturally bigger as well. And now it's proved to be the difference in the fight. It was Bivol just not only kept his level, but he actually got more and more confident as the fight progressed, and Canelo just couldn't keep up. And it ended up being that exact thing, the work rate and the pace that Canelo couldn't deal with.
And the scorecards were controversial in themselves, being so close. What did you make of the scoring?
The scoring was, I was kind of disappointed that the scorecards were close, because, you know, you want to believe in the honesty of boxing, even though it's kind of does you dirty every so often. But looking at and analyzing the scorecards and a little bit closer, once I saw that all three judges had the first 4 rounds for Canelo, I was absolutely disgusted. Like I could still vomit up this coffee I'm drinking right now just thinking about it. That's how disgusted I was. I mean, nobody does anything about it. There's no consequences for these guys. You know, the consequences are for the fighters that get robbed or lose. You know, they have to get paid less the next fight. They have to deal with the consequences of an L. They have to deal with the consequences of the politics not going their way. Judges have absolutely no consequences when it comes to these things. And that's why, you know, it's a hard problem to fix in boxing. It's hard to grow the fan base. And then, I mean, again, it makes you... Like, you can think of a lot of things you want to do to these judges, man, but you know, I'll keep my mouth shut on it.
Just a couple more, because we see Ben Whittaker just about to get in the ring for his workout. It was meant to be Triple G versus Canelo in September. It was kind of already announced as that 2-fight DAZN deal. Do you think that puts Triple G in kind of a situation now?
You know what? I think he should still fight Triple G in the third fight. I think the back end of that deal he got with Matchroom, which was Bivol and Golovkin, it left an opening where, in case he lost the Bivol fight, the third fight with Golovkin is always a fight you can take as a confidence builder, because Golovkin is a little bit older, he's on a downslide, you're probably going to beat him much more handily. And then also, you know, you can use it as a comeback fight. You know, you can use it as a build-back fight after the loss. I know that people are talking right now about the rematch of Bivol, but I just don't see Canelo's style matching up well with Bivol. I don't think he can beat Dmitry Bivol. I don't think there's an adjustment to be made, because I've never seen Canelo with an ability to fight at a higher pace, you know, and have that output that is necessary to compete with Bivol round by round. And so I think he's better off doing the Golovkin rematch, and then in the meantime seeing if his confidence is up enough to fight Bivol again, or if he goes in a different direction. Bivol is not an easy guy to deal with. I'm telling you, this guy is the real deal. I mean, I'm sure people understand that now, but he was the real deal going into the fight. Too many people were not really understanding how dangerous this fight was, and I think he showed it.
Bivol said he'd be open to the idea of moving down to 168 to fight for the undisputed title. Let's get for this undisputed title. Do you think that that's kind of taking his advantages away from Bivol?
I don't know. I think it's something interesting for Bivol, though. I think that, it's sort of a feather in his hat if he can win the 168-pound, unified 168-pound title. I think that maybe that's, besides the money, obviously, which would always be good, doing the rematch for him, I think it gives him something more to shoot for, something more to elevate his game for. Now it gives him another reason, not just to get paid, but also another reason to try to gain more accolades. And winning the 168-pound title gives him that extra motivation, that extra push. It may also give Canelo some advantages that he didn't have at light heavyweight. When you sell it like that, you may be able to sell the rematch a little bit better. Because right now, at light heavyweight, I just don't see the fight being competitive.
Finally, Paulie, someone you know very well, Ricky Hatton, is stepping back into the ring with Barrera in the exhibition fight. What do you think of that?
You know what? I actually got a call to do the co-main event on that show. I turned it down. I'm trying not to box anymore. They offered me ex-UFC fighter Dan Hardy, to box him on that. I think Hardy's now fighting Diego Sanchez on the show. They found the replacement for me. But, I was tempted. It's a big show and all that stuff. But I know that if I start stepping back in the ring, I'm just going to get sucked back into these exhibitions one by one. I'm trying to keep myself busy doing other things in boxing. But certainly exciting times. Anytime Ricky gets in the ring, even if it's for an exhibition, people are going to talk, people are going to be excited. And it gives a new generation here in England a chance to see just how exciting Ricky Hatton was. And it was an event. It wasn't just a fight, it was an event. And the new generation that maybe has heard of these legendary nights and legendary stories of Ricky Hatton fight nights now can maybe partake in enjoying a night like this.
So, for the record, you're just going to be enjoying the fight, not be appearing on the fight night?
No more appearances for me. I'll be enjoying the show, and I hope they have a tremendous success. I have no doubt they will. Ricky in the UK, Ricky sells out anywhere he fights.
Brilliant. Paulie Malignaggi, thank you very much for speaking to the Boxing Voice. Hopefully catch up again soon. Cheers, mate.